Hey, welcome back to our podcast, your go-to source for all things real estate and lifestyle in the heart of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm Jackson Christian Berry.
And I'm Jean Kristen Berry.
And together we're here to guide you through the vibrant world of Fort Worth and surrounding suburb living.
We believe in creating a community where everyone feels at home. And that's why we're committed to bringing you honest, expert advice in a fun and friendly way. From the bustling streets of downtown to the serene suburbs, we've got the scoop on what makes each area unique.
Each week we'll dive into the latest market trends, offer tips for both buyers and sellers, and share insider knowledge to help you make informed decisions. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about some of the Fort Worth charming neighborhoods, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to Welcome Home Fort Worth. We are so excited you joined us for what is continuously, every single time we do these podcasts, my favorite episode that we film, because it's just so interesting. It is so fun as a real estate professional to get into the weeds, the data that's actually happening.
You're a nerd that way.
It's just so interesting because, you hear a lot of news outlets are national, right?
Yep.
You hear what's happening nationally. It is fascinating to see what's happening locally because it's not entirely what's happened nationally. It is a different story. So it's so fun to do this. Fun to update folks. I've got two disclaimers real quick. I make this every single time. Our stats today represent predominantly Tarrant County and Johnson County, with just a little bit of Parker County thrown in, the east side, a little bit of Ellis County, the west side thrown into that as well. So just keep that in mind. That's what we're talking about. Real estate, the second disclaimer is real estate is so hyper local right now, y'all. Your neighborhood may be performing so different than even the neighborhood across the street. And so if you are somebody considering buying or selling or just wanting more real estate information about your property or the property you're considering, you have to talk to a real estate professional right now because they're the ones who can give you that insider information and let you know what's actually happening. Okay?
Yeah. Otherwise, you might leave money on the table.
Yep.
And just not get the best deal.
Or, with the days on market here, really the days on market when you do Tarrant and Johnson it's inflated for Tarrant, so it's higher for Tarrant, and it's a little lower for Johnson. And so it doesn't represent those areas specifically. So just keep that in mind. But, lots of good stuff to jump in today. I'm really excited. I've got some extra stats today that we're throwing in just for some extra little spice today. That is just really exciting to talk about. I've heard some new statistics and some podcasts I listened to that I'm so excited to share with you all today. Lots of good stuff jumping in, but let's just jump right in, Mom. What do we got going on?
Here we go. So we're going to talk about inventory, guys, seller's market means there is not a lot of inventory, and buyer's market means that there's tons of inventory.
Sure.
So that's the difference we're looking at here. So right now, we're going to talk about inventory, the number of listings that we have on the market. So we have right now, this last month, 2,438 were the number of listings.
New listings.
These are new listings, brand new listings that just came on the market, and that's up 7% from the previous month.
Yeah, January.
Yeah. And this is February stats, up from January.
Yep.
So 22% year over year. So compared to last year, 22% up this year from last year. So that's more new listings.
Which is great to hear.
In 2023. Yeah. So you'll have more to choose from,
yes,
right?
buyers have more to choose from. Unfortunately, that does mean sellers do have more competition. So that's what that means for sellers.
Yeah. Though the good news is, we'll get to that in just a minute. The good news for sellers, even though there's a little more competition than last year. All right, so active listings, those are the ones that are on the market. This can be listings that have set on the market for 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, whatever, and could also include the newer listings.
Yep.
So February, we had 5,447, and in January, there were 4,961. Yep. So again, we're up 9%, almost 10%.
Yeah,
actually.
almost 10%.
Almost 10% from the last month. And then over year, it's 28%.
Yep.
So we're up 28% year over year. So again, these are listings that you can choose from. So buyers, there's some listings out there, right?
Yeah, more listings to choose from for sure. And it's great. I mean, the real estate market, which we talk about every single episode we do of this,
right?
The real estate market, especially in 21, 22, where it was just savagely unhealthy.
Yeah.
We had such low inventory. We had such great buyer demand.
So much demand. Whoa.
And so we really have not fixed the supply issue. There's still a very, very low supply. And so we'll talk about if it's a seller's market and buyer's market later on. But just keep in mind, this is really indicative of there's more listings on the market. So this year is going to be a feel a little closer to normalcy, what we should see in our market on a normal year without, that kind of thing. Still low inventory, of course, but just keep in mind we're getting closer to that normal.
Yeah. Still good for sellers, but buyers, you got a chance now.
Yep.
So also number of sales. Let's talk about that. So number of sales in February was 1,232, and in January it's 1,266.
Yep.
So still low, down 2.8% month over month.
Yep.
But year over year it's down 45%.
That's big.
So that's humongous.
It's big.
So it's a lot less sales January and February, and we're starting to see that. You're seeing a lot less signs in yards right now. So you're not seeing a lot of signs.
Well, and particularly what that indicates, so anytime you look at closings, right, in a typical real estate transaction, it takes you 30 days, usually at minimum.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a little earlier than that, but usually it's right average 30 days to get from under contract to closed. And so anytime you see, we're talking about sales and closings that have happened, that's an indication of what happened the month before, what went under contract, that what went pending that month before, and that it closed that month. So really, that's a data point. Even though we were talking about February, it's really indicating the activity that happened in January, right? Which for us is very common in this market, in all real estate markets. Really,
it's seasonal.
It's seasonal. Yeah. We have extreme seasonality in this market.
Yeah, we do, and we're still on the back end of some of that seasonality right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Before it starts heating up.
Yep.
Closed price. Let's talk about that.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah,
on number of sales, this is a point that you have talked about a ton before that I've never actually tracked, but I wanted to add it to our tracking.
Yay.
This is, I was able to figure out a way for us to see how many closings that have happened that a seller offered contributions, so concessions, that seller gave money towards the buyer, which this number, honestly, it shocked me. I don't know if this is shocking to you. That 57% of all closings in January offered seller contributions.
Wow.
That's 707, right?
Yeah,
707
that
closings.
seems high, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems very high. Just to hear that 57% of all closings offered concessions, like that. I mean, that's indication of the market. That's what that indicates. That's also, I think, a little bit what I would also describe as like what is commonplace. What usually happens in a real estate transaction. So anytime, if you're a seller considering selling your home and the buyer is asking for concessions, understand that that's not this, how dare they? It's actually a little commonplace. It's actually the majority, 57% of closings for January at least.
Yeah.
Speaking about January,
Well, some of that usually
or
is
February, excuse me.
Some of that's inspections, right? Yeah. It may be money for a different repair or something like that.
Yeah, and it can be.
So a lot of that is that. So it can be that.
Yep.
And that is very common.
Yeah.
We just hadn't seen it in the previous market.
Well, and a lot of people are still asking for sellers to give money towards rate buy downs.
Rate buy downs.
So, that just to fix that. It's almost a marketing fee in that way.
Well, and our new construction homes are doing that so severely. They're giving $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 in buy downs. So, sellers are going to have to compete somehow with that.
Yep.
So they're having to do that too.
Yeah, big time.
So, lastly, closing price.
Yep.
So, average close price.
Lastly on supply at least. Yeah.
And this is supply. So closing price, absorption rate's down. Absorption rate for y'all is how quickly the properties are absorbed out of the market. So how quickly the market absorbs the properties. So we're down to 0.22.
Which is 22%.
Which is 22%, and that's still a seller's market.
Yeah, it's 20% is usually the line for a seller's market. Anything above 20% is usually what we consider to be a seller's market. Anything below 15% is a buyer's market, which means that homes are just getting absorbed.
Slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
Very slowly. So this is still good news for our sellers.
Yeah, and
this is the part that we were talking about. I mean, this is a good thing.
Yeah, and your average close price in February was $410,160. That is down from January, which was $412,814. It's down a very minor amount, 0.64% month over month, and from year over year, last year was the average close price was $409,763. So it is up 0.1%, but we're talking super minor stuff here, y'all. So just something to be aware of. All right, but getting in, so that's the supply. So again, real estate, if you ever took an economics class, supply and demand, real estate is dictated by supply and demand. Everything we do is supply and demand oriented. If you want to know how the market is, I've got to talk to you about supply. I've got to talk to you about demand because that's how I indicate how the market is, right? So those are kind of supply indicators. That's inventory that's on the market. Those are the homes and what's happening with the homes on the market. Let's jump a little bit into demand. So this is things affecting buyers and buyers wanting to buy homes, buyers being able to get funding for homes, things like that. So probably the biggest news and probably the most thing I've not seen it reported on as much, which has been honestly kind of nice, but interest rates are up.
Yeah.
I think last month we were talking about 6.6, 6.8. We're at 7.13% today for interest rates. So they've gone up. If you take our average close price for the month of February and you do the average mortgage, as a result, you get the mortgage payment with that. at the 7.13%. That gives you a average monthly payment of $2,765. Okay, and that does not factor in things like insurance and things like taxes if you decide to lump that in with your monthly payment.
And that's for a mortgage of $410,000.
Yes, $410,160. Again, that's the average February closed price, right? So that's where that number comes from. So what I always like to do when I find that average monthly payment, I always like to juxtapose that and see what's going on with rents, because the biggest question is with buyers, should I rent? Should I buy? Okay. So if we look at rental prices and the average rents are up 3.7% month over month. Last month, January was $2,554 was the average rental payment. And that is up to, in February, $2,648. That's the average rental payment in these areas that we're talking about. That is up 4.2% year over year. So last year at this time, the average rental payment was $2,541. Again, today we're at $2,648. So apples to apples, it's still cheaper it's cheaper to rent. Okay?
Yes, it is right
now. This is where I got well, there's always a but. As real estate agents, we always want to make sure that you understand the full context of that conversation. Right?
Absolutely.
So to have that full context of that conversation, first off, things that are not discussed in those two metrics, right? As a homeowner, you'll have costs associated with owning that home. You will have to repair things. Your AC might go out. You have to have access to somewhat funds because you've got to be able to afford those things when they come up, right? So keep that in mind. As a renter, you don't have to deal with those things as much, but you are not gaining what the homeowners get, which is appreciation. It is not an investment for you when you're paying your monthly payment. It is just paying somebody else's fee and it's just going out the window, right? Yeah. You're not getting anything back for that. As a homeowner, you get appreciation, which we'll address at the end of this, but just as a teaser, I mean, on average in this area, we see 6% appreciation year over year.
Which is higher than the national.
Which is just so higher than national. And has at the lowest been 3%, but at the highest been 9%. And that wasn't, I did not calculate that using the COVID years. Yeah, because those are just such outliers for all of this. Yeah. I calculated that just using basic, average, normal years. So just keep that in mind. But so, those are the conversations that go into a rent versus buy scenario. The other thing I think we need to really talk about is, let's say you save that money. So you're saving, let's see, you've got $2,648. You've got $2,000 for your rental, You've got $2,765. So you're about $100 different in those two payments. If you factor in insurance and taxes, you're probably looking somewhere close. I would add at least $400, if not $800, depending on your insurance policy, based on the average tax rates I see around here. So, we're talking, just for sake of easy math, we'll call it $800, right? Maybe you got an $800 difference in taxes and insurance included into that monthly payment. Okay, $800. You're saving you chose to rent. You're saving $800 a month rather than spending that into a home payment. Okay. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that money? Okay. Let me tell you what the average American does with that money. This is, as you can tell, I'm getting really pumped up right now because this is the stat that I found that is just...
Because you feel passionately about people building wealth.
This is bonkers, y'all. This is just bonkers. And this is something that nobody talks about when this conversation comes up. Listen to this. There is a statistic that is tracked by the U.S. Bureau of Labor. And it's this thing called the personal savings rate, okay? It can be generally viewed as the portion of personal income, somebody's what they make, their salaries or whatever,
bring home.
that is used either to provide funds to capital markets, so investing in stocks and all that kind of stuff, or to invest in real assets such as residences, okay?
Hey everyone, real quick before we get back to the show, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, we'd love to connect with you. We post a lot of content like this in case you miss an episode, along with more Fort Worth and surrounding suburb local insights and finds. You can find our team at the Christenberry Group on all social platforms, or you can connect with Jackson and I personally on our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. Just be prepared for lots of pictures of my grandson on either account. Now back to the show.
Literally tracking the average homeowner's investing activities or investing activity. So here's the deal. Here's what you need to know. Okay, in 1975, May of 1975, it was 17.3%. So the average American took 17.3% of their income and put that towards investing, put that towards building wealth, right? Okay. Today, that number is down to 3.7%. Okay?
Wow, that's a huge drop.
It's huge. Okay. So just taking this math again, I need to pull out my phone. I apologize because it's very improper podcast behavior, but just for the calculator. Okay. I promise. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that number. Okay. So the average American, if you look it up, our average salaries are around, it's just shy of 60,000, but we'll call it 60,000. Okay. 60,000 you make a year. Okay. We're going to divide that, or we're going to multiply that. 60,000. Okay. Multiplied by this 3.7%, right? 0.037. Cool. 2,220. I don't know if you can see that on my screen. 2,220, right? That is the average American's investment and what they're going to spend in investing into real estate or in stock markets. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I know we're in the weeds. Stick with me. We're getting through it. I promise. Okay.
And that's a year?
That's a year.
That's a year.
Exactly. So divide that by 12. 185, y'all. That is the monthly amount that the average American is going to invest. Okay. So subtract that from that 800 difference we talked about earlier, right? You're looking at what that's 200. We'll call it just easy math, $200 or 200. So you're at $600. Okay. That extra $600, you know this, I know this. You're going to put that towards something fun. You're going to put that towards food. The average American's not going to put that $600 towards an investment, which you're forced to do in real estate because real estate is an investment. It grows, and it's a dual investment because not only does your money grow in real estate, but on top of that, you get to live in it.
Right.
It serves a purpose.
It's a utilitarian
you
investment.
do something.
Yeah.
Your kids go to the neighborhood pool if you have an HOA with a pool, right? You know, you're close to fun spots that you like to go to with this place. Like it's a dual use thing. Okay. So that's my spiel about the full conversation regarding should I rent or should I buy? If you're the person listening to this and you hear that and you go, no, I'm the kind of person who says, you know what, I'm going to invest that $600 on top of what the average American invests. Cool. Then I support and I believe in you renting. And I think that's something that you probably should consider doing just because at a base math level, that does make the most sense right now.
Right.
Okay. If you're not that person, I'm not that person.
Very few people are that
I'm
person.
not that person. I like fun stuff.
Very few people are that disciplined.
I like fun stuff. I like putting money towards experiences and things like that, right? So if you are not that person, I'm going to recommend that we at least consider your financial situation to see, the only other question I have at that point is, are you the kind of person who has enough money in case something goes wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. If your AC goes out, do you have a cushion? Because if you don't, I'm going to encourage you to build that cushion. But the second you've got that cushion or that we're close to that cushion, y'all, I think it's something you want to consider because it forces you to gain equity, to gain wealth in this, in your home, in this thing you live in, right? So
and you don't really notice it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, a forced
You're paying
savings.
it. Yeah, you're paying it.
Forced investment. And the other thing that's cool is that a lot of people that are considering doing this are younger or just starting their wealth journey.
Yeah, sure.
And so you've got time on your side.
Yeah.
You've got so much time on your side.
Yep.
So that'll be able to compound and
and grow massively. So long spiel just to say that is, if you're going to ask me if I should rent or should I buy, that is a holistic look at that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying buying is not right for everybody. It's just not. But it does. Is it a great way to build wealth? Absolutely. The average homeowner has built, the American homeowner has built so much wealth through real estate in just their primary residence. So
absolutely.
So, all right, moving on. So that's my spiel about renting versus buying. So just have that information for you. All right, moving on. We're talking about demand factors, right? So these are things that affect somebody's, these are things that indicate activity in demand. So, for example, one of the things we track is purchase application data. So the amount of mortgages that people are applying to purchase, to take on, right? This data is down. So from February 14th, we were at 149.6 as the index point is what they measure with it. And then the February 21st, we hit 133.6, which we're still at. It updates tomorrow, so I don't have that new February 28th, but you can check back for that. So that indicates, that's down 30.5% month over month. Less people are going after mortgages right now. 7.13% interest rate, that's not unheard of. Mortgage application rate really does follow interest rates growing, and they're inverse related. So as interest rates go up, mortgage application tends to go down. and vice versa, right? As interest rates go down, more people go in and try to get mortgages.
Consumer confidence gets kind of
Sure.
pummeled a
Yeah,
little bit.
just a little bit. So you want to make sure we're tracking that. It is down only 10.1% year over year. So that kind of shows you the difference in seasonality a little bit there. And then it also shows you a little bit what's going on with interest rate. I should have gotten this statistic and I didn't. Last year, do you remember what interest rate we were at this time last year? I want to say we were still in the 6s.
Yeah, we were.
But I don't know if that's accurate. So we'll have to check on that. But I think around this time we were in the 6s and now we're in the 7s, right?
Or upper 5s.
Yeah, something like that. So anyways, days on market, okay? If you're the kind of person that is getting into the market today, these are some things that you might want to know about, okay? The average days on market, I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, is 69 days on market for the month of February. And that is literally the exact same it was in last year over year.
Yeah.
It is up 5 days from January, which was 64 days on market. So just waiting a little longer on the market, but nothing substantial. And again, the exact same as it was last year.
I think it's real interesting that your July numbers here, 41 days on market in July.
Yep.
Again, that kind of shows that seasonality that kind of, and also related to interest rates, right? Because they were different.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we were in the 7s yet. We were definitely in the 6s, but I don't think we might have hit 7s after. In fact, Silicon Valley Bank thing happened last year, and I think that got us into the 7s when that happened.
The 7s,
But anyways, all right, close price. So this is the percentage of original list price, and so this is like close prices versus like what they listed at. And so where did, you would think about this as like, if I list at 450K, this is me taking an offer at 445K kind of thing. So percentages. The average percentage of that, so homes sold on average in February for 97% of their list price. Okay, so below. And that is up from 0.5% from January, which was 96.5%. And last year at this time, I didn't get that data point. My bad. But last year, March was 97.5%. So we'll track that next month.
Yeah, that's real close.
Yep. You want to talk pendings for us and just looking ahead?
So pendings in January were 1,175. And then this past month, February, 1,399. So, pendings are up.
Yep.
So we kind of thought so because I think back in, was it December, we had more mortgage applications going on?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because rates fell a little bit in the end of the year. Yeah.
So we really thought there was going to be a spike.
Yep.
So obviously there's been a little spike.
Yep.
In December, we had 998.
Yep.
So it did go up. And of course, in November, this is abysmal, right?
Yep.
334 pending in November. So it really dropped then. But that's when interest rates were high.
Yeah.
They were really high. So, and that has so much to do with consumer confidence.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, and affordability, right? Like that's ultimately the conversation that I had earlier is affordability, right? Over the COVID years, we've said this before, but you had a massive spike in home value, right? So homes got more expensive.
Right.
Interest rates blew up, have blown up
went up.
since. Taxes went up.
Insurance went up.
That's a whole conversation we haven't had yet too, but all of it's gone up, right? And so the conversation there is does it make sense? Can you afford it? Because a lot of people can't now.
Yeah.
It doesn't always make the most sense for folks to do that.
However, if you're on the cusp, just like what you talked earlier about renting versus buying, it would be good to promote that.
You need to be somebody thinking about those factors I mentioned earlier. Like I want you to make sure that those are if you are deciding to rent versus buy, I want to make sure that you thought about the things I mentioned because you needed to know those things.
Yeah.
When you made that decision, that's really having the full look at that conversation
and have it in your goal, have it in your plan.
Yeah, I mean, work towards it. Yeah, or I mean, at the very minimal, y'all, if you're gonna rent, just make sure you're putting that money towards investing. Like, make sure you are growing it in some sort of fund. Finally, the best news about real estate, y'all. We always like to end the podcast on this note.
Right.
If you look at the average close price in these areas, Johnson, Tarrant, a little bit of Parker, a little bit of Ellis, your average close price in 2014 was $212,512. Okay. All right. Today, your average close price is $432,803. That is just awesome increase. And that's what we mean when we say appreciation.
Right.
The person who bought their house in 2014 and has stayed in it through all these years, through all the ups and downs, which really have only been ups. Just some years were just like a little more flat than other ones. If you're that person, you have made $200,000, more than that, $220,000 just in equity. You've probably also paid down your mortgage in those 10 years. And so you probably have more than that to do that. I'm hoping you maybe have made some upgrades as well along the way that have added to your home value. There's just a lot of things in this conversation that we love appreciation. Real estate is an asset that grows. It is an asset that is almost guaranteed to grow over a 10-year cycle. Okay, keep that in mind. Obviously, 2008, 2009, we have seen record drops in home prices for sure. Of course, there are years where it does go down. But over a long period of time, I think if you go back, this is a podcast, I'll have to find the statistic for us, but it was something like either 50 or 60 years, every 10-year period has consistently seen real estate increase. It is always an investment that grows in that time. Again, in 10-year periods. I just got to make that note.
Yeah, and the stock market's the same way. You look at it the same way. It's like stocks are going to go up and down.
Yeah.
But over time.
Yeah, they grow.
It grows.
Yeah, the consistent ones do at least.
Yeah.
The good ones. Yeah. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, and I mentioned this earlier, but so if you look at the average appreciation that you see year over year in our areas, taking out the COVID years with all of that record madness, you have it ranges from 3% to 9% appreciation every single year, and averages around 6% every single year appreciation in these areas. So. Yeah. That's good news, y'all.
Means Texas is still a great place to buy real estate.
Especially Tarrant and Parker and Johnson and Ellis and just
all
DFW. Y'all. DFW is just great. So
still good time to buy.
That's all we have for you today. We're really excited. We are actually going to have slides. I'm hoping you've seen them the whole time. I meant to mention that at the beginning of the podcast. We heard you. We listened. If you're listening to the audio version, I highly recommend you to check out the YouTube version where you can see the video of this, because we actually have slides today to show you these graphs. I apologize. They are not our branded colors in advance. They are a green color. It's all my system lets me do. So forgive me for that, but we're really excited to show you this stuff. So give you some visuals.
Please take a look.
Cool. All right, y'all. Well, we so appreciate every single time y'all tune into this episode. I love this episode in particular. I will show favoritism to this episode because I just think this is such cool stuff to talk about. I hope you get some value from this. And if you do, each and every week, we've got, parts in our podcast that remind you about this. But if this was helpful at all for you today, would you do us a favor and leave us a review? On audio, would you leave us a review? If you're on YouTube or if you're on social media and that kind of stuff, would you consider leaving us a comment, leaving us a like, maybe hitting that subscribe button? All of these things really help us get this valuable information out to more folks that we want to help. So
absolutely. Stay tuned for more valuable information too.
It's great.
That's coming up.
It's coming. So appreciate y'all every single week.
Thanks,
hope this is helpful, and we'll see you next week.
Next time.
Hey, thank you so much for watching the podcast today. If this has been valuable for you at all, we sure could use your help getting the word out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and give us a follow and consider taking just maybe 2 minutes to leave us a review. Both do wonders for our show with the algorithm, and on both platforms, all you gotta do, head over to our show page. On Spotify, hit 3 dots and select rate. And on Apple, all you gotta do is just scroll down to the show and say leave a review. So just click that. If you're seeing this on Facebook or Instagram, a like or comment puts all the good vibes out in the algorithm for us. And on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we post a new episode. Join us again next week for more Fort Worth housing news and updates. Until then, y'all have a great week.